If you've never encountered HP Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu, you're in for something that'll completely shift how you think about horror. Imagine stumbling across a story that doesn't just want to make you jump out of your seat, but instead aims to make you question your entire place in the universe. That's exactly what Lovecraft achieved when he published this masterpiece in 1928. This isn't your typical monster story where a hero saves the day. Instead, it's a terrifying exploration of cosmic insignificance that suggests humanity is nothing more than a tiny speck in an indifferent ancient universe. What makes The Call of Cthulhu so deeply unsettling isn't just the tentacled monster at its center, but the philosophical nightmare it presents about our complete irrelevance in the cosmic order. So, before we get deep into the lore, make sure to like the video, smash the subscribe button, and ring the bell icon so that you never miss another update from yours truly. Now, without any further delay, let's get right into the action. Lovecraft's vision, the birth of cosmic horror. Well, suppose you're trying to understand what drove Lovecraft to create something so profoundly disturbing. The man himself was fascinated by the idea that modern science, particularly astronomy, had revealed humanity's cosmic insignificance. Born in 1890 in Providence, Rhode Island, Lovecraft developed what he called cosmicism, a philosophy that positioned humans as utterly meaningless in the vast universe. This wasn't traditional horror focused on ghosts or vampires. Instead, Lovecraft created what we now call cosmic horror, where the terror comes from encountering forces so ancient and powerful that they exist completely beyond human comprehension. The philosophy behind his work was deeply materialistic and deterministic. Lovecraft believed the universe operated according to predetermined laws with no room for purpose or meaning. His stories reflected this worldview by featuring entities that weren't evil in any human sense, but simply operated according to alien logic that we could never understand. This approach to horror was revolutionary because it shifted the source of fear from supernatural beings to the terrifying reality of our cosmic situation. The structure, a story within stories. What's brilliant about The Call of Cthulhu is how Lovecraft layers the narrative like an archaeological dig. The story opens with a note that the following text was found among the papers of the late Francis Wayland Thurston of Boston. Right from the start, we know something bad happened to our narrator. Thurston begins by making one of the most chilling statements in horror literature, that mankind's inability to correlate all knowledge is a mercy, because if we could see the full picture of reality, we'd either go mad or flee into the peace and safety of a new dark age. Thurston discovers the mystery through his deceased great-uncle, Professor George Gamble Angel, who was a specialist in ancient languages at Brown University. Among Angel's papers, Thurston finds a locked box containing a bizarre clay bas-relief sculpture and a manuscript labelled Cthulhu Cult. The sculpture depicts something that defies description, a creature that looks like an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature all at once. This layered storytelling technique creates distance between the reader and the horror, making it feel like we're uncovering forbidden knowledge alongside Thurston. The mystery unfolds. Henry Wilcox and the Dreams. The first thread of the mystery involves a young artist named Henry Anthony Wilcox from the Rhode Island School of Design. In March 1925, Wilcox approached Professor Angel with the clay sculpture, claiming he'd created it after experiencing strange dreams following a minor earthquake. The dreams were incredibly vivid, featuring strange cities with massive monoliths, green ooze everywhere, and the repeated chanting of Cthulhu Futagan. What makes Wilcox's case particularly disturbing is that he created the sculpture while sleepwalking, with no conscious memory of making it. During his fevered state from March 22nd to April 2nd, he described visions of cyclopean cities and a gigantic monster miles high. Professor Angel discovered that artists and poets worldwide experienced similar nightmares during this exact same period, suggesting some kind of global psychic disturbance. This wasn't a coincidence. but evidence of something ancient stirring in its sleep. The cult and its rituals. The second thread comes from Inspector John Raymond LaGrasse of New Orleans, who in 1908 consulted Professor Angel about a bizarre cult discovered in the Louisiana swamps. The cult consisted of what Lovecraft, unfortunately, described in the racist language of his era as mongrels and various marginalized peoples. These cultists practiced human sacrifice while chanting the phrase Funghui Miglunaf Cthulhu, Relaye Waganagul Futagun, which translates to, "In his house at Relaye, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming." The rituals themselves were horrific spectacles. Cultists would dance naked around bonfires under the stars, surrounding grotesque statues made of unknown materials that seemed to come from beyond Earth. They performed brutal human sacrifices while summoning lesser entities called Starspawn to worship in Cthulhu's place. What's particularly chilling is that these cults existed worldwide without any apparent contact with each other, yet they all shared the same basic knowledge and chants. This suggests that Cthulhu's influence operates on a telepathic level, reaching across the globe to connect his followers. Cthulhu, the indescribable horror. Now let's talk about Cthulhu himself, and honestly, this is where Lovecraft's genius really shines. The creature is described as having a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head, whose face was a mass of feelers, a scaly, rubbery-looking body, prodigious claws on hind and forefeet, and long, narrow wings behind. But here's the thing, Lovecraft deliberately makes Cthulhu impossible to fully describe or comprehend. The most telling description comes from Gustav Johansen, the Norwegian sailor who actually encountered the creature. The thing cannot be described. There is no language for such abysms of shrieking and immemorial lunacy, such eldritch contradictions of all matter, force, and cosmic order. A mountain walked or stumbled. Cthulhu is described as hundreds of meters tall, ancient beyond human comprehension, and possessed of abilities that seem to violate the laws of physics. What Lovecraft wanted to portray wasn't just a big monster, but something so alien that human minds literally cannot process its true nature. Relaye, the Nightmare City. The third, and probably the most terrifying part of the story, involves the sunken city of Relaye, located in the South Pacific at coordinates 47 degrees 9 minutes south and 126 degrees 43 minutes west. Relaye isn't just Cthulhu's prison, it's a mind-bending architectural nightmare that defies human understanding. Johansen describes it as having abnormal, non-Euclidean geometry, where surfaces that appear flat are actually tilted and angles that look convex are actually concave. The city was built in measureless eons behind history by the vast, loathsome shapes that seeped down from the dark stars. When Ralia briefly rose from the ocean depths in 1925, it created a coastline of mingled mud, ooze, and weedy cyclopean masonry that was loathsomely redolent of spheres and dimensions apart from ours. The architecture itself was so alien that sailors couldn't tell if they were walking on horizontal or vertical surfaces. This wasn't just a strange building design, but evidence of intelligence so foreign that it operated according to completely different physical laws. The encounter, Johansen's terrifying experience. The final climax of the story comes through Gustav Johansen's manuscript, which details what happened when his ship, the Emma, encountered the pirate vessel Alert in the South Pacific. After a battle that killed most of both crews, Johansen found himself commanding the Alert when they discovered the risen island of Relaye. 6 of his remaining crew members died simply from witnessing what they found there. When they accidentally opened a massive door in the city, they released Cthulhu from his slumber. The creature's mere presence drove some sailors insane on the spot. As Cthulhu pursued the fleeing survivors, Johansen made a desperate decision that has become legendary in horror literature. He turned the Alert around and rammed it directly into Cthulhu's head at full speed. The impact caused Cthulhu's head to burst open like an exploding bladder, creating a slushy nastiness as of a cloven sunfish, and releasing a stench as of 1,000 opened graves. But here's what makes this scene truly terrifying. Cthulhu immediately began regenerating. The creature's scattered plasticity started nebulously recombining in its hateful original form, even as Johansson's ship escaped. This wasn't victory over evil, but merely a temporary setback for something that operates on geological timescales. The cosmic horror philosophy. What Lovecraft wanted readers to understand through The Call of Cthulhu goes far beyond just telling a scary story. The tale embodies his philosophy of cosmicism, which suggests that humanity exists in a universe where we are completely insignificant. The great old ones like Cthulhu aren't evil in human terms. They're simply operating according to alien purposes that have nothing to do with human welfare. The horror comes from the realization that our entire civilization, our history, our hopes and fears are cosmically irrelevant. Cthulhu and his kind existed for vigintillions of years before humanity appeared and will continue existing long after we're gone. The story suggests that all human progress and achievement is just a brief flicker in an ancient, indifferent cosmos populated by entities whose mere existence proves our insignificance. This philosophical framework explains why traditional heroism fails in Lovecraft's stories. Johansson doesn't defeat Cthulhu through courage or moral superiority. He simply delays the inevitable through desperate action. The story ends with Thurston realizing he knows too much and will likely share the fate of others who learned these cosmic truths. The legacy and lasting impact. The Call of Cthulhu fundamentally changed horror fiction by introducing the concept that the universe itself is the source of terror. Instead of monsters that could be fought or understood, Lovecraft created entities that represent the complete failure of human knowledge and power. The story's influence extends far beyond literature into philosophy, psychology, and popular culture. The tale demonstrates Lovecraft's genius for making readers complicit in their own horror. By structuring the story as forbidden knowledge that drives people insane, he creates a paradox where the act of reading becomes dangerous. We're drawn to understand the mystery, even though the story explicitly warns us that such knowledge is destructive. The enduring power of The Call of Cthulhu lies in how it taps into genuine existential fears about humanity's place in the universe. In an age when science was revealing the vast scale of cosmic time and space, Lovecraft created a story that transforms scientific wonder into profound dread. The tale suggests that the more we learn about reality, the more we realize how little we matter and how vulnerable we are to forces beyond our comprehension. The Call of Cthulhu remains Lovecraft's most terrifying idea because it doesn't just present us with a monster to fear, but with an entire worldview that makes human existence feel fragile and meaningless. Through the layered narrative of Thurston's investigation, Wilcox's dreams, the cult's rituals, and Johansson's encounter, Lovecraft built a story that operates on multiple levels of horror. It works as a detective story, a monster tale, and a philosophical nightmare all at once. What makes this story particularly brilliant is how Lovecraft uses the limitations of human language and perception as part of the horror. Cthulhu cannot be fully described because human minds aren't equipped to process such an alien reality. R'lyeh's non-Euclidean architecture represents concepts that our brains literally cannot understand. The cosmic horror emerges not from what we can see, but from the implications of what we cannot comprehend. Nearly a century after its publication, The Call of Cthulhu continues to influence how we think about horror, science fiction, and humanity's relationship with the universe. It reminds us that in the vast cosmic scheme, we might be far less significant than we'd like to believe, and perhaps, as Thurston suggests in the story's opening lines, that ignorance truly is a blessing. If you enjoyed our video, leave a comment telling us your favourite horror movie. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying realisation is that we're not the centre of anything at all, just temporary arrangements of matter in an ancient, indifferent cosmos where something like Cthulhu waits, dreaming.